you guys sit down? Okay, which one of you is hungrier? Would you ladies sit down, please? Would you guys sit down? Would you guys go ahead and sit down too? Okay, hands down. We ordered it online. Okay.
Drive was too quick.
Which one of you guys runs faster? Okay, hands down, please. Which one of you reads more? Okay, hands down, please. Hands down, please. Which one of you is funnier?
What?
Funnier?
I couldn't resist.
Or would you guys stand? Okay, hands down. Which one of you guys is more musical? Would you guys sit down? We have a winning pair. How did that feel?
We did pretty well.
We did pretty well. Those of you that lasted. Okay. But how did it feel? Not how did it go, how did it feel? Uncomfortable? Why?
Because we couldn't communicate.
Because you couldn't communicate?
Maybe think of that as somebody observant and alert.
Okay.
Well,
Within the pairing or like observing you?
Within the pair.
Okay.
I think, we're used to cueing our response to someone else's response, or checking it out, or being aware of that other person. And this was designed to not be aware.
Right. Right.
That's not.
Yeah, and I'm not.
And I was afraid I was going to be wrong.
Afraid to be wrong?
And we're, we pastors were supposed to be helpful to everybody. There was no way to be helpful.
Right.
I didn't feel any stress at all. Either you got them up or down, or just.
All right. Good. You realized there was no prize for winning.
You assume.
Yeah, you assume there's no prize for winning, but how about the question? Did you notice that the questioning changed? It went from pretty arbitrary things already decided, things that were out of our control, to height and hunger. But when we started talking about talents and gifts, it was a lot harder because we could see you struggling, because it was like, well, what am I saying? On one hand, I'm saying I read books, but then am I implying that the other person I'm back-to-back with does not read books? I'm saying that I run a lot, so I believe I'm fast, but then am I saying the other person doesn't run? Asserting our own gifts and talents was different. And I suggest to you that there's a mystery of the human spirit, that which cannot be communicated, that which cannot be seen, that almost makes us uncomfortable. Did anybody else have a hypersensitivity to what that person was thinking, doing, and feeling that you wouldn't normally have?
Yes.
No.
I was trying to listen for stomach pains. I couldn't hear it.
Stomach pains. Okay. For many of us, those who cared about winning. At least for me, it was a higher attention to somebody's thoughts and feelings than I usually pay. What are they thinking, feeling, and doing? To me, that doesn't happen a lot anymore. Nor do we give the opportunity for our congregations, in my opinion, to express that for themselves as readily. Now, I also submit to you that it's harder because they might not be as ready to do that because they're not challenged to do that. Again, as you're saying, we're used to like going on cue. How you doing? Good, great. How was it? Good, fine. Go ahead.
I would have felt more in tune if you had to answer for the other person.
I think, in general, it's hard because I don't know how to embrace the mystery of the human or divine spirit in your area. But I think that's where we have to go. Because information is out there. Have you talked to anybody trying to start a church lately? What are they hearing? What are they saying? Who's it?
Oh,
Courtney?
I mean, about what?
What has their experiences been for those trying to start a church?
Yeah, I think one of them is just a lot of conversations, and then it's also a lot of kind of running into that this may not look like the church that we're told is the successful church.
Yeah.
But that when it clicks is when there's a sense of cohesion and community that's palpable, tangible.
Yeah.
And that's where it's live, but then it's often in opposition to, even in our denomination, what they say a successful church plant should look like.
Yeah.
You know, so there's sort of like this pursued model that's probably not even realistic for new church start communities.
Yeah, I talked to a guy who was doing that model, and he was going around and he said, "Now we watch Joel Osteen." The guy, you know, the idea that you get a charismatic speaker, preacher to gather the masses. Well, gosh, you can go watch a TED Talk on YouTube and be inspired. What's different? Go ahead.
Well, I just have to add this to this church that I joined, and I had been thinking I would join the church again. Somebody said, "Well, you've got to go listen to this minister. He's from Harvard Seminary, brilliant, great monologues." And I went and said, "Yeah, this is a little like Very Home Companion," and liked him. And then he left, and I went, "Oh, I guess this is the first test of my faith, you know." And staying through leadership is a really, really important thing. And again, I want to put off a little bit of what you suggested, that it's about the community. I think what it was about, we touched on this with youth group experiences where there is no judgment. It's a safe place. I don't know if you have kids that went to La Foret, but I actually went to La Foret in 1969. My kids, I had one child that didn't like it, felt there were cliques, but the other kids loved it because there was no judgment. And I had a real sad experience recently with our friends losing a son to suicide. Over 100 young people came from churches all over the Front Range that had met him at La Foret and done other things, and they said, that was a sacred place where you could go, you weren't judged. And that, adults need that too, you know? Adults need that when they get out of...
So you're saying that you don't see that as authority in community?
I don't think it's... The other thing I want to bring in context to is the church used to be a place where you could go and not get therapy, but talk about things. Talk about things. You go to a minister and talk about things that are bothering you. Yes, it was a spiritual advisor who could help you understand what your faith and what your religion, your Bible could help you understand about yourself. But there's something about even just the conversations you can have in the church that you might not have at the 7-Eleven with someone, where you're open, where you don't feel like, I can talk about this.
Yes, and I don't mean to negate the Bible or pastoral leadership. I think they hold truth in my personal opinion. What I mean to say is for people that are looking to join, the final say or the identity is equal to, if not enhanced by, community first at least. Yeah. Go ahead.
I guess I kind of like to second what you were trying to say is in my own personal experience with my local church. I don't always agree with the theology we have with either the ministry or all the congregation. But I go because I recognize that I have to have community in order to literally survive. And if I don't have community, I don't survive, I don't do well. And the church is a context where I can build community for myself.
And I think it makes it harder because you have an understanding of community that's more relational or face-to-face than the newer generations coming up. And I think that what we have to do now is in a way that doesn't tell people what they need, provide opportunities that they're not getting elsewhere. And I think, for me, there's a few things. Interactive community, live streaming, but real live streaming. Community that happens together for real. Whatever it is, as you were saying, even if it's grief, live streaming grief, the authority of the community, or whatever you want to call it, that says, I'm not alone. You know, maybe we've got to free ourselves up as pastors and leaders to be the one that says, here's what I think, here's what's going on. And allow our community to just be a place that says, hey, we're there with you. And leave it at that for at least step one. Safety and vulnerability. I think we've all touched that. What do we need to do to provide safety and vulnerability? And we have to force that, I think, because we're getting really good at not being vulnerable anymore. So what can we do as church leaders that creates vulnerability? I suggest to you we've got to find people within our church that want this too, that will lead. Because I'm not going to be vulnerable until you show me it's okay. And not you as the pastor, because I know they're not coming after you. I want to see I want to see another sheep go first. So I suggest that this is a conversation that needs to happen with leaders within the church. And then missions, I think, is still big, but theology with the sleeves rolled up. The opportunity to encounter the other spirit. In youth group, it's changing at least how we do it. We're building less homes, which is harder because we're walking away, not being able to look back and see what we finished. But we're going to more homeless shelters and drug addiction treatment facilities where we're not really doing anything. But we're understanding more. And it's harder for our teenagers because, gosh, I didn't even do anything. But I think there's a level of connection with a human spirit that it speaks stronger and longer this way. I do want to touch on something, though. My brother is a member of the fastest growing church in Fort Myers. It's Next Level Church, and they have connection groups. And they've got a magazine that goes out every 4 months with connection groups. And you go to their website, and what they push is connection groups. I'll read them to you because it's fine print. Active parenting of children, a way out. American Sign Language. Anointing women of faith. Becoming a confident woman in leadership. Biblical combat. Bicycle outreach ministry. Boot camp fitness. Building time with daddy. Building wealth. Chapter Chicks book club. Child sponsor support. Collide mentors. Now, what I didn't show you, they've got a page that's Ultimate Fighting Championship Men's Group. And I looked at it and I was like, Charlie, this theology sucks. I would never go to this church. It's the fastest growing church in Fort Myers.
Looks like the meat looks like.
Yes, it does.
But the point
But
is,
it provides connection.
it's
And I
connection.
think it does more than that too. What I missed in my theological snobbery, I'm not even ordained yet, remind me of theological snob, was the fact that this speaks a different language. I think the theology of an Ultimate Fighting Men's Group in the name of the church is terrible, hideous. I think even the Anointing Women Bible study is loaded with all kinds of stuff that would set back the feminist movement 50 years. But you know what? These aren't led by pastors, folks. They're led by members. The message that this says to my brother is that, hey, you can start a connection group. And we're really good with our silly putty, slinky, bouncy ball model of saying, hey, come join this, we got something, you're going to love it. But I think there's a greater truth in saying, hey, you want to do that? We'll support you. We'll stand behind you. Our theology is what makes us different. I'm not trying to say we throw that away. But I think in this new model, we might need to put that second or third. Because we can teach theology. What we can't teach is connection. And I think when we reverse that, what we're really saying is, once you believe like we do and behave like we do, then you'll belong. And I suggest to you, well, again, it's not my suggestion, but I believe that the paradigm has shifted. Because even when we get rallied around our social justice issues, I think we're starting with behave like we do, then believe like we do, then belong. Or behave, then belong, and believe, whatever it is. But I think... Oh, by the way, here's what they believe. Don't read it, you'll get mad. It's terrible. If you're UCC, you think it's terrible. But the point is, people who join that church aren't saying, what do they believe? They're saying, hey, I either do or I don't belong there. So here we had it, believe, behave, belong, that works so well. Maybe now it's time to belong in the hopes that we can behave together and then reach a belief that we can be united around. It may not be theologically pristine, but we'll get there. Again, I'm not trying to discount our theology. I just think we're impressed by our theology. The 45% may or may not be. The 20% may or may not be. And that's a struggle for me. But to be honest, we're not creating a new way. We're going back to the old way. The right after Jesus way where, hey, our authority was in community. And no, Paul and what's-his-face over there, Paul and Peter, no, they didn't agree on everything. But there was a certain authority that came in community. There was a certain something that came first with the fact that we're willing to belong together regardless of who you are. I suggest that that's a way to get people to the table where then we can talk theology. I don't think they're coming to family dinner. Think about me, I'm not going to family dinner because I'm going to get judged unless I take my earrings out. I'll go if I know first I'm there and I belong. Once I know I belong, I'll talk to you about anything I want.
I mean, family. I've taught school for 100 years, and I mean family dinners in the home.
That's what I mean. I'm talking about my own family dinner. I don't need my granny talking about my wardrobe. I'm saying I'm not going because I don't feel like I belong. What's that?
You and your kids.
Yeah.
Family.
You don't belong in your own family?
Just that.
No. Well, that's a whole other. That's a whole other.
But you can start a tradition. I started a family, well, my wife and I started making sure that we had the dinner meal all through my children's childhood. They're all in their 20s now.
Yeah, and
it's the biggest thing in their lives when we get back together, having a meal together and being able to talk.
And there's no hesitation of who says the blessing.
Well, and I know we're out of time, but I think this is the conclusion that what does family dinner look like for the church? And the temptation is to go Wednesday nights. But our families are busy. So what is the new family dinner that says we're not one more thing? We're an opportunity for you to be a human, to be vulnerable, to connect as a human with your problems and your faults. That's the first, to belong. Second, I think, is still. To have a reflection you're not getting anywhere else. Maybe it's a shorter sermon and a longer conversation. Maybe it's a longer sermon and then a longer conversation. I don't know. I don't know your flock. I don't even really know mine. I'm learning every day. And then know that I am God. To have some truth that comes out of that gathering and reflection. I think, real quickly, it should be led by your membership. Yes, let's make our congregation our evangelists, our marketing team. If it's an ultimate fighting group, fine. They're going to get their friends. No one's saying to me, nobody's saying in my youth group, hey, you ought to hear Neil's messages. They're the bomb. No, they're saying, hey, I'm in the band, or hey, I'm doing a talent at the talent show. Come see it. Less purpose-driven and more relationally driven. I think those starting new churches are finding that the first thing they need to do is not open up the coffee shop, but go figure out what's already going on and help out. More conversational opportunities. Intergenerational activities. Start with the fact that somebody's got to be the listener first. I would think that those with the most wisdom might want to be doing the listening first to establish vulnerability. More mystery. I just took a trip with my kids. They never knew where they were going. They got a packing list the day before. But you know what? They had to connect with each other because they couldn't think about anything before or after. Whatever the mystery is of the human spirit, maybe it's okay to say, you know what, I don't know why that happened. What do you think? Forced opportunities for reflection. If we believe that there's not enough time to reflect, then we might have to push that issue to make the point that God's Spirit moves in our reflection. Less stuff, more depth. I would suggest that the ministry of presence, creating a model where our ministry team and ministry leaders can be out in the community at the soccer games or at the community gathering saying, I care enough about you to be here, is more effective today than saying, hey, I got a great thing, you're going to love it, you should come check it out. I think when they feel connected like we've invested, they'd be much more willing to invest in our community that gathers. And I wanted to leave this with you because there's only... What? that video used a lot of words that I'm not really comfortable using because I was raised at UCC. But I don't think that those that do theology in a way that's bully method or hurtful or destructive should get claim on all the good words that Jesus used to use. So maybe you and I ought to aggressively seek to reclaim discipleship, evangelism, in a way that speaks to our UCC identity, is less about calendar and more about relationships. I wish I could tell you what that looks like. I have no idea. But I would love to have you continue the conversation with me. That's where I'm at. My mom's address there, I'm not sure she thinks I really work for a living. You just let her know I'm trying. Write her a letter. Tell them my belt matched my shoes. She'd be impressed.
It's okay, Mom.
I'd be very interested to see what you and your church felt it looked like moving forward. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.